Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. Today, I thought we would play an early episode. This is going back about 100 episodes to episode 14, where I have my good friends Curtis and Christina on talking about small living, sustainability, the building that they built and created using sustainable practices, and having the mindset of creating these not tiny homes, but they're pretty tiny studio spaces that are really, really cool. We got to do a tour of the building Cayuca, which is super exciting. But it's been so long, and I don't think it's gotten the listening capabilities that it should have. So I thought I would bring it back to the forefront so that you can all enjoy this beautiful story, understand their building practices, and be inspired. So again, today is a replay of episode 14 with Curtis and Christina talking about small living and sustainability. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Alrighty, welcome. I have Christina and Curtis on with me today, which is so special. We have a little bit of a history together, so I'm excited to dive into that. But before we do that, of course, I'm going to set our space and just being really intentional. I'm going to go ahead and light our candle, bringing in that fire element of creation and creativity. I've got a beautiful Mithras beeswax candle, of course. And then I'm going to ring our bell to get us centered and just take a moment to be present. And then I have a beautiful card for Abs from Inner Compass. This is her love cards, and I thought I went through my bin of all the cards that I have that creators have sent me, and this one just popped out, and I was like, oh, it's love cards. I have a couple coming on, and then we were just talking, and I'm like, oh my god, and the creators in the Netherlands, and Christina and Curtis had just told me that you guys are actually going there.
Yeah, we're leaving early May. Mm-hmm. Heading out to London first, and then we're over to Amsterdam.
Yep, 4 weeks out.
So cool. So I love that it's had this whole little connection that I didn't even know about. So it's totally calling you in that part of the world. So let's see what card we're going to pull for us today. It's longing. Right. And we were just talking about this is going to be your first trip, right? Your first plane ride, long plane ride, and maybe longing.
Our last big trip was right before really all the shutdown and everything. Yeah, I think it was Japan. So we have been longing for some traveling.
Yes, absolutely. This is that longing of now we get to kind of come back into our worlds that we were so used to, and longing for that back. And so yeah, I just encourage anyone that's connecting with the podcast right now and thinking about what's been longing for you and how can you restore that back into your life. I love it. I have a kombucha, of course. I'm drinking Nova kombucha. It's the watermelon lime. This is their non-alcoholic line, which is freaking rad. And of course, I love their packaging. I know, isn't it? The little polka dot.
Yeah, we saw that we were doing a little beverage at the beginning. So our friend, who is in New Zealand, Bob, We just got his tea, and so we're drinking his tea. But I thought you would like the packaging on this.
Oh my God, that's
Isn't that cool?
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Wow,
We have
the
the
dragon.
tea from him that we're having.
He's from San Diego.
Cheers.
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 Sundays.
And what's the name of that line? It's Little Dragon.
Yeah, it's called Little Dragon Tea.
Yeah.
I forgot the name of this like actual green tea that we're drinking, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
What is
he's
it?
been a big tea drinker for like 20 years, and it's been a dream of his to start this company. So I think he started it. It's probably been like 3 or 4 years now.
yeah, I think so.
But then just 2 months ago, we got on. Christina organized a FaceTime chat with him, and he kind of went through his process and taught us some things. The interesting thing I learned, because I've been a tea drinker for like 5 years now, is that I can only drink non-caffeinated tea and drinks, and I guess that's not even tea; it's tisane. I was like,
Oh,
totally
okay.
different tree. So that was
Yeah.
kind of interesting to learn.
Bob was like, "You're not really a tea drinker."
Yeah, you're not even a
Sorry.
tea drinker. You're just mixing things into
Yeah.
glasses.
Drinking some sort of a brew.
Yeah. Shaking his head
Potion.
the whole time he talked to me, like,
It's hilarious. Well, you'll have to send me his link because I'll totally put it in the show notes so that we can all just cover
Aw.
this line. Yeah, I'm excited for it. And, you know, packaging is everything. It's like that invitation to
yeah,
come into their world. Yeah,
he did a good job. It's super cool.
did. Holy crap. Okay, I love it. So yeah, welcome to Bewitching the Home. We have a little bit of a history. It was really interesting. I think Curtis and I reconnected. When did you do the Duke?
I think it was 5 years ago we finished that.
Okay, yeah. So I was doing staging. So I've been doing interior design, and then I went off on my own in 14. So it was right around probably a couple of years in, and I was staging, and I got a call from somebody from Curtis's company that they wanted some staging and they liked the style. And I was like, all right. So I remember going to the property for the first time, meeting Curtis. And then afterward, I was like, how the heck do I know this person? Like, I have met him before. And then it dawned on me that we actually went to high school together.
And our high school's not that big, but like I feel like for some reason there's a big group of people there that you just don't meet because you get in certain tracks in classes, and it seems like you have the same kids in each year. There was like a whole group of kids that I didn't have in any 4 years, and you were one of those.
Yeah.
It was like,
No, I don't think we were in a single class.
no, I think you just had a couple of your friends were in some of my classes, and that's like how I started to understand. I was like, oh yeah. And Drew Spicer. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
Drew from middle school, right?
Right. And elementary, we went to Lemon Avenue.
That's right. That's who actually we're gonna go
Yeah.
visit in a couple weeks.
You are? Oh, tell him I
That's
said
kind of
hello.
part of our trip was to go and visit him, because he comes out here once a year. Aside from COVID, he's got here at least once a year to visit his family. So we actually haven't been to visit him since he got married, which was like, I don't know, 12 years ago. So it'll be cool to go visit him.
Yeah.
That's so rad. And then I met Christina at a networking event. We were sitting next to each other.
Mhm.
And we just clicked. And then
Mhm.
I remember going to Orchids and Onions because I was helping out. And I saw you two together and I was like, oh my God. It was just like this big.
Oh, that's
Well,
funny.
I
Yeah,
think
you
the
didn't even
funny
get
part.
married.
Well, the funny part was that I'm sitting and looking towards the stage, and then we all get up, and I see you at a distance, and I'm like, oh, I know her. I just met her at Hatch, and I wave, but Kurt's like behind me, and so I'm like, she knows who I am. I know who she is. We're gonna like connect right now. But I didn't realize that you already knew Kurt too, and so I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of here!
He's like,
But I
Right.
guess you guys already knew each other. I was
I was
late.
like, you don't know anybody.
you don't know
Get
anybody.
away. You don't talk to anybody. I'm like, I know, but sometimes I do.
I know this one person.
Yeah, I know Rachel. I know her. Too funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. So I like to start off every episode just talking about home. So what is home to you guys right now? I know you have a story of how you got to your home, but I'd love to know, like, what is home now, and like, how did you get to that space? Because the way you're living it's like, honestly, it's a fantasy of mine. I think after the kids leave, then I can start to go tiny.
Well, I guess I guess honestly, we've always kind of lived small together in the beginning of our relationship. We had our first apartment was probably 400 square feet off of
Right off of Adam.
Idaho and Adam.
Yeah.
No way. I lived in Idaho and Adam.
Yes.
And those little cottages
Yes.
next to the mattress store.
No.
Next to the mattress.
There was a
liquor store, and then
Yeah.
you go down Idaho, and then there's like this beautiful like home that had a lot of stained glass.
Oh, you were like on the corner.
I'm on the corner, yeah, across
On the north side?
hitting corner
South
from south side, hitting corner of Twigs.
Oh, yeah.
Across from the liquor store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very close.
My great grandma lived 2 houses up on that side. We have so much weird history. We could talk about it for like a couple hours.
Tracking.
I got a car stolen there. That was this crazy adventure. But yeah, we lived there first, and it was super cool. We really loved it there. George Abernathy was the property manager there. This really old, kind human that was just just one of those people that was super sweet to like be able to live there for a little while. And yeah, we loved it there. It was great. It was $775 for a 1-bedroom.
I know. I thought ours was 1,000.
You're like, no, this is not the 80s.
Oh, it's 2005.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that long ago.
I was there in 2010.
Man, we were just overlapping, but that's how we started, and just having not coming from a lot, so we didn't have a lot in any place that we started together, and we started our relationship there. And then shortly after that, we went to another small living kind of cottagey thing out in La Jolla before we made the decision to buy a home. And so I think conceptually we always wanted to have like this home that we were going to build, whatever that looked like for Curtis and his background with his dad, who was a builder, and his mom, who was very much the caretaker of the home. She had many other things that she has dabbled in her life, but was very, very dedicated to the home and what was going on for her boys. And so I think Kurt always had his concept of what that looked like. For me, I guess, I don't know. I'm not quite sure what my ideal was for home, but I was okay with handing it off to Curtis. Because I just don't have, if we're talking about building a home conceptually, like physical pieces of it, it doesn't matter to me, which is weird when you have somebody who has this ability to build beautiful things. At the time, I didn't know exactly how good he was, but he was creative, and he was doing a lot of construction. He was running a construction company at the time with his pops, and we started searching for a home. We looked all over San Diego, and his dad came across this property that you couldn't really tell what was going on inside, other than it had this very mid-century look to it. It was 1955. I think it was 1955 built.
Gunshots were going on inside.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The pool had turned into like a West Nile situation.
Yeah, like a West Nile situation.
Yeah.
Back. It was right at the beginning of like the foreclosure.
Oh, right. So what year was this?
2008.
Yeah, 2008. It was right like the early onset of like everything falling out.
Yeah.
And, so it was kind of a good time, but it was also not, the market hadn't dropped off yet. So we kind of bought it like in the middle. So it was a little bit weird. After we bought it, we were kind of almost thinking, oh, did we buy too high? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the next couple of years, we were kind of like, ooh, I hope it doesn't go down any further. But ultimately, the house had really good bones. Like, it was super well built in the 50s. Like a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of really amazing mid-century on Mount Helix. I think
Oh my God.
It's just one of those areas in San Diego. Like Point Loma is one of those areas. La Jolla obviously has a lot of that, but like La Mesa is kind of like the East County that Mount Helix has a lot of that. And that's ultimately what drew us there. Cause we had this little shack in Mission Hills right by the nursery, and we pulled out because there was literally like, there was no property. The driveway ended up being the neighbors. So it was just like this tiny postage stamp. It was a little too small. It was a little too like claustrophobic. So my dad had found that one, and so we moved into that, and
we had a lot of construction tools. We had a house.
Yeah.
At that time, we just had
needed a garage. we needed a garage because there was like a lot of stuff coming in and out all the time with our projects. So yeah, we started that home project, and
Let's back that up really quick.
Yeah.
I was uncertain about all of this, and
She's like, wait, Lily.
There had been a fire down in the garage, and so the paneling was already smoked out. There was no wiring going through the house because that had been ripped out, and the water situation was questionable. You got that working pretty quickly, but we owed a lot of gratitude. We still owe a lot of gratitude to his pops, who's no longer with us, but he just came in, and a couple of his friends, and then Kurt had to keep his capabilities, and everybody just went to town, and we thought this thing. And let me back that up a little bit more. Our real estate agent looked at it. We were 25 and 26. Luckily, Curtis had saved every dollar since he was like 5 years old, and he could make this dream of buying good bones to come true. And she's like, don't do it. She's like, you guys aren't married.
Oh my gosh.
It's a huge project. I've seen so many things happen. Like, just say no, walk away. Don't do it. And we're like, we're buying it. He was like, we're doing it. And I'm like, all right, we're going to do this. So we all got in there, and we thought it was going to take us like 5 years to renovate.
Yeah.
It was 9. It took us 9, and we did.
Well, we had like a big window in between where we stopped. I had some like medical things. So
Yeah.
it was like a 3 to 4 year period where there was not really much going on. On the front end, there was a bunch going on, but we didn't have much money. So our first renovation was the laundry room, which is the cheapest room to renovate, you know?
Right.
So like the laundry room, and I did that in nights and weekends. And then we did her office, which was also like a pretty cheap renovation. And then we moved. The big one was the kitchen. That was the one that saved the money for. So like that was after I think 3.5 years we had saved enough to like slowly buy the appliances out, and then buy the cabinets, and then we had enough to do that. And that was like a really big accomplishment, I felt like, for both of us to be able to afford to build something beautiful in this home. You know, once the kitchen went in, we were both just kind of like, wow, this is really cool that we have this place, and we have this really custom, beautiful kitchen that she gets to cook in. And then the rest kind of just trickled in. But it's funny because naturally what happens with remodels is like, it's a construction zone until you sell it.
Yeah.
So it was like, everything else is pretty much a construction zone. And then like back in like year 8, we were like, okay, we really want to, that's kind of when we had this transition in how we want to live, was probably around year 8. We decided that we really wanted to scale back. It was too much house for us, and it just didn't make sense from like a lifestyle perspective for us. But also, you know, like there were so many things financially it didn't make sense. We just want to live smaller. We want to have a smaller footprint. We want to.
Well, I think you have to explain what's also going on. Like we built this. I think when you ask us what is home, I think we've both figured out that home is always having a project to do there. And so I think building it to this perfection, it became more about maintaining it and not ruining it, and be careful and don't touch that. And that's not our personality at all. Yeah. If it's there, we want to use it, play with it. Like our nieces and nephews run through the house, the dogs come. That house became, at the beginning, it was such a gathering spot. We had so many parties.
And it was great because it was kind of busted up and old, and
so you didn't care.
So we'd have these big parties, and it was like, whatever.
It didn't matter.
We'll clean it in a couple of weeks, and that's about it. You know?
Oh my God.
And all of a sudden, everything got nice, and we were like, okay, this is definitely an investment project. Yeah. You know, a lot of people were like, this is your forever home, but financially for us, it didn't make sense for this to be our forever home. Like we need it had to be like a stepping stone towards something else, you know? So that was really like the transition in our thinking, was like, okay, we really love living in the city. Like, you know, living off Idaho, we really love it over there. Loved, you know, just loving being close to stuff, and, you know, traffic and gas and everything else that goes with that. It's just, you know, we had a pool cleaner, and there's just all these additional costs and efforts that go with having a large house that we just kind of wanted to scale back on.
And he had transitioned. So he was no longer doing the contracting. he had moved into small product, modern design,
Oh, right. Yeah.
hit product, the butler, the organizational piece for every human. And
For everything.
I think of the whole family, we bought so many of those. Well, your parents and us, a few friends too.
Throw those out of production.
Yeah.
I
yeah,
mean,
pretty much.
There's some in the garage.
Yeah, there's a small lot in the garage, but yeah, it's
No longer in production.
yeah, it was good. Good while it lasted, and
Yeah. It was a great launching pad for him to understand that he was going to make this move into more of, I guess, building this design path for yourself.
yeah.
And he started to wake up at 5:30 in the morning every morning to teach himself how to CAD. And the reason why he transitioned out of construction, having the contracting company, was for his health. He just couldn't physically do it any longer. And so he was going to have to figure out how to live this design life in a different way. And so he started to teach himself how to do the CADing, and there was a small product that came along. And so that transitioned our life in a big way. And as we were selling, he was starting to get into looking at bringing these bigger buildings into life. And so I think you were right on the cusp of starting the Duke in Baker's Hill. Yeah?
Yeah, around that timeline. Yeah. I mean, she supported me like during the front end of deciding to just do my passion project, which was just to become a designer.
Wow.
And my parents are like, "What? So what are you gonna really do though? Like, what's your real job though?" And I'm like, "No, I just want to be a designer, and I'm gonna build small pieces and custom furniture and stuff like that." And then like a year in, you still have a lot of people asking you, but like, what are you really gonna do to make money? Same conversation you have. I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do, but I was doubting myself all through that phase. That was a 2-year phase of trying to make it work and doing like other odd jobs on the side. And then the butler is what ultimately like made it happen for us. Was like, okay, finally it's financially feasible. And then that kind of is what transitioned into allowing us to do other projects,
And getting back to the city.
Yeah. But our home at that time was also my workshop. So that was a big piece of our home. Was the whole ground floor was like a 900 square foot shop. And so it was so cool. I loved that home, and I loved having the shop there. It just, there was just certain elements of it being too large and just feeling excessive for 2 people.
Yeah.
Us deciding not to have kids, it just didn't seem like it made sense anymore, And so we're both super financial conscious. So I think that was a big driver. And then obviously with like everything going on with the environment, that became like another big driver to find something a lot smaller and to just like really scale back. Because we kind of felt at that point that that's like really how we would love to live, and we've been doing this for 5 years now.
Yeah. So home is where you are.
So how big is your home now? You have a tiny home.
Yeah. Well, we ended up being nomadic for a little under a year after we sold. And we were going through a lot of change at that time. And so in the change, we unfortunately lost his father right about that time. We were making all these decisions, and we moved not only ourselves, but we got his mom to come out to the city with us. So she lives about 10 houses up from us now.
Yeah, she scaled back as well. She lives in like 1,100 square feet, and her house was like almost 19. So
wow,
that was a big scale for her. And it's like her house is, she's one person and a dog. 1,100 square feet is fine. But that was the model, 1,800 to 1,000 square feet was the model for so many years. And it's so spacious. We opened up a couple walls and redid all the interiors and stuff, and it's perfect. It's
so cute.
Oh my gosh.
It's adorable. But so we all moved out this way, and Kurt and I remained about, we would do a couple days with your mom or a couple weeks with your mom, and then we would go on a trip, or we'd try different Airbnbs around town to see what neighborhood we really wanted to settle into. And we stayed at this Airbnb across the street from where we are now. And we didn't know this street, but We stayed in the Airbnb and it was kind of quiet. And then we fell in love with it over a week. Cut to going out and staying for a couple months out at your cousin's place in La Jolla. And Kurt found online the place that we're in now. And he's like, there's this.
Well, she actually took a plant from this
Yeah.
house. The guy up front he was like, I think he would do clippings here and there.
Okay.
And while we were staying, she walked by and he had some clippings that she like brought back to that Airbnb, which is on the corner of our street, and like planted it in there.
They needed help with their gardening.
Yeah. So it was super funny to like find that house, and so we checked the house out, and it was just a freaking wreck of a house.
Oh my gosh.
Like
It was perfect.
it was for all the right reasons. It had been sitting on the market for 3 months, like in a decent market, but like just like all cash buyer only, because it's just like missing like most of the foundation's not here. In the Zillow picture, it's leaning sideways because it pulls off of the front footing.
It was 5 colors.
5 colors. Totally illegally built into 4 apartments.
Oh my
With a
gosh.
single family house just cut up. And so I wasn't really that excited about it, to be honest. I was kind of like, I don't really want a big project because I was already starting some of these infill projects, and I just didn't really have a lot of the time for it. And so she was a little bit more excited. I was really excited about the neighborhood. I was like, I love this neighborhood. I really want to be here, but I just wasn't sure if we wanted to do this scale. But
so we walked away from it saying, he's like, it's too big of a project. And for me, like I said, I'm not attached to like the physical so much. It's more of a feeling of where I want to be.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's just too much. We go back to where we're staying. And I think 3 days go by, and he wakes up in the morning on the 3rd day, and he had checked the listing. He's like, it's still available. I'm like, you know what I think we should get it. It's totally your energy. We're supposed to have projects.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that it has to be perfection at all for the next, I don't know, decade. Like, we would be okay if we just get it to livability.
Yeah.
And so we made an offer, and then somebody went in and offered way above what we asked or were offering.
Mm-hmm.
But I had written a letter, because you should always write a letter, and really kind of leaned into what we were doing with our lifestyle. But the thing that was the hook was that the son of the man who had owned it had passed. His son, who was in his 60s, was selling it, and he had the butler saved in his like bookmark of websites. And so he knew exactly who Kurt was, and was like, I want you to have my dad's property.
Butler closed
the deal. So there's just like these little magic moments. But you like, when I walked on this property, as I knew it was magic, I knew it was right in line with the lifestyle that we wanted to have in the city, because we still both need a lot of downtime, a lot of quiet time. I think probably I'm a little bit more out and social, but he is a quiet surfer most of the time, chatty, but a quiet surfer, and needs some nature. And something about this street is it just delivers both of those concepts. And we kind of sit under these pepper trees that just swing and bring this magical aspect.
I think the pepper trees definitely they're the magic of this space. There's 2 mature pepper trees, and they're just really cool. And I think it makes it, a lot of people come up here and they feel like they're kind of in the hills, in the trees, and they feel like they're outside the city, and those trees definitely do it.
Yeah. But the structure is definitely still Lost Boys from Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And if there's an earthquake, we should probably run out.
Yeah.
But it's perfect for us right now. It's perfect. And there's no need to like make any big maneuvers other than to maybe redirect the wildlife that wants to live under my bed. That's all.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God. You're going to have to send me photos of this house.
No, you're just going to come over.
Oh yeah. I'd love to come over.
So we ended up splitting it into 2 units. So it's an Airbnb in the back, which is like 350 square feet. And then we live in about 400 square feet, which is it's a small 1-bedroom, and it's just kind of like an open floor plan. Single wall is the kitchen, and then otherwise, like, there's a little office area for Christina to work, and then the outside is really what helps live here, because there's like a couple different terraced wood decks that you can go and hang out on, or we have 3 sheds.
There's a lot of shit.
A lot of sheds. I think he'd love to use the under, what is it, 120.
Oh, right. Yeah. The 8x10.
Structure, right? Yeah. So he's got 3 of those. One's kind of my office when I'm not on a project, and then one's my workshop area, and then another one's storage. So it works out great. Just good overflow. And then we have a garage area for her workout and office space. So it's a good amount of space. And yeah, we love being super close to everything now again, and just not really having to worry about a lot of the maintenance and stuff that we used to. It's really nice.
Oh, that's huge. And then how does it transition into your newest project?
Yeah, so the Airbnb, I think, was kind of a little bit of the design exercise to better understand. And they're both really in different ways, because this one was a 1-bedroom. The Airbnb is a studio.
Okay.
Airbnb, the layout was a little bit weird. The guy that lived there before, he was living in like a lofted kind of space above the bathroom, but headroom's really small. And so
For his bed.
Yeah, for his bed. And so we were a little bit reluctant plus we were just a little worried about like Airbnb guests having to climb stairs all the time.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Liability and stuff like that. So we instead, the bathroom had this like closet behind it. So we just ended up removing the closet section, and that became this like bed niche. And the bed niche is kind of what I used at the project. It was kind of a similar concept where you're still giving everybody a like an open space, but the bed it allows the bed to be closed off, like when you want it to be closed off. And I feel like that is like a functional detail of a studio that allows it to feel more like a living space and less like you're living in a bedroom. And so we kind of did 2 different versions of that with these 2 spaces. And then it was really cool because we lived in the space, like our kitchen area was like, how much storage do you really need in a kitchen for it to feel like fully functional for someone that cooks all the time? Like Christina cooks all the time. She loves cooking. So I wanted to make sure we weren't going to be reducing any space for just like living functionality. So like the kitchens were designed in some ways similar to what we have here, where it's more or less like a 10 to 12 foot bank of cabinetry and appliances. And that felt really good. I felt like the 2 of us, we can work in the kitchen really well. There's no bar space, even though I know some of the people that have moved into Cayuca, they put like a little bar in there too.
Okay.
So it's, there's some like floating functionality that I feel like people can add to it. But yeah, these are 400. So that kind of transferred over to like one of the main floor plans that I designed for Cayuca, which was 370 square feet. So it's a little bit smaller than what we were living in. So I just made sure we added more storage to the space to make it more functional. So like there's floor to ceiling wardrobe space that's built in, and then there's a bed that's built in, and then we have floor to ceiling casework for the entire kitchen. And then in the bathrooms, we're hiding all the laundry inside the bathrooms. We have a little, since the beds are like a tuck-in niche, we installed this little phone charging dock thing in the wall. So instead of having a side table where everybody puts their phones, you have this little niche that you can charge your phones in. Just like a lot of little stuff like that it's not really
space too.
The outdoor space. Yeah, almost all of them, almost all but 4 units in the whole project have either a patio space or a deck space. And I feel like that's just almost a must in San Diego. It's so warranted, especially if you're going to have a small space. I feel like you want to have something to go to outside, and so that was a huge part. I think a lot of people are pulling back on that now just because you don't get like the rent increase doesn't warrant it for a lot of people if they're just working off of pro forma, but I think for how I designed Cayuca, I was trying to create an experience and not just an experiment, like I think a lot of the studios I've gone into in the last couple of years, they feel more like an experiment for people to come and use for a year and not really like a long-term experience, and I think
Lifestyle change.
yeah. So I think for most people, if they're not designers, I don't think they're going to go and build out those spaces. They're just going to come in, put their furniture in them, and then they're just going to kind of get burned out on it, not quite being spacious enough, So that was like a big part of the design, was trying to figure out like, what's the sweet spot in square footage? What's the sweet spot in like how much extra money we want to invest in built-ins and things like that? Because, a lot of that stuff you're not going to get back. We're not charging more rent than any of the other market rate stuff. We're actually charging less than most of them are. And so it's just kind of like trying to find this happy medium so that the project still made sense financially, but we were giving everybody what we think is like the happy medium of things, so that people want to live there for 4 or 5 years and not just like 1 year.
Yeah, no, I think it's genius having that bedroom. The bed niche is amazing, and then also having the cutout, because people are just gonna, if you don't have that, people are just gonna throw whatever bed frame and weird shit that they got, and it's like it kills everything. Same thing with the wardrobe. They're just gonna like, who knows what they're gonna bring. I've seen it. It's like, this doesn't make sense. Like, and they don't understand. Some people don't understand scale and size, and it's like, you've kind of helped that along so that they can keep this beautiful aesthetic, have it very functional. And then it's like they come in and okay, all I need is like a sofa and maybe like an outdoor patio set, and we're good. Like you did like the big step.
Right. And I just don't think most people don't have the interest to do that. I think like the people that do are probably 5% that really want to like bring in all the extra stuff and really dial it in. So I just think it should, I think ultimately it should be up to the designers to try to take care of that stuff as much as possible so that it's just functional right out the bat, because I just think otherwise it's not. And then it's kind of a shame to not make it more functional for everybody and make it, because it's 370 square feet is plenty of space. And that's the cool thing about it, is people will go in there when we did these tours, and like, we had the tour you were on, it's like, there's like 15 people in that space, and with the slider doors open, it feels super comfy, and I just think it's really cool that 370 square feet can feel comfortable for 15 people,
Yeah, it's great. And your bathrooms are huge.
Bathrooms are huge. They're adaptable and accessible. So that's like the city standard, which I think is great. Like we have to make sure that we're always providing everything for the entire community and not just for everybody that's not a handicap or something, as other disabilities, so yeah, it's a good benefit for sure.
I think watching him go through the process and bringing this building to life, now that he's done 3, was going into his own concepts of life, like figuring out who he was, what he wanted to stand for, and his partner Pat being on the same page, who is also Helix. But Pat and his family having their history of being in San Diego and providing housing that is attainable for many, them working together to design what surfers would want to bring to the city, and how are we going to preserve our footstep, or just be aware of our footstep within the city. Watching him conceptualize the entire project from the point of view of Pat and him, and what you guys wanted to do was really beautiful, and that it lives within the building now, from deconstruction and all of that.
Yeah, so I just think it's amazing that you have designing spaces based on like your actual existing spaces, the spaces that you've lived in, and then you've also incorporated your values, and part of that is being in the surf community and looking out for Mother Nature and having her be your kind of your guide. So tell me about all the things that you have incorporated from the deconstruction process to like the runoff water solution. And
I think one of the first things that was kind of like a driver, obviously like everything's smaller. That's like the biggest driver of everything. That's like, you know, construction waste, material usage, all that stuff. That's the biggest driver of this whole project. You know, our average unit size, you know, half of the project's 370 square feet. So that unit's supposed to replace the typical market rate 650 square foot, 1 bedroom. So right away, we're almost half of what that person is typically renting out. So we're taking out almost half of the construction materials use by doing that, and you know, and making sure it's functional is a huge part of that, and not just an experiment. But beyond that, there's a lot of design details that were integrated into the project. A lot of people are shifting towards concrete right now. Concrete's more, it's a lot more durable and lasts a lot longer, and material costs are almost shifting to where it's within like 5 to 10% in the total construction project costs to just do concrete. So there's more people switching towards that. Concrete is, you know, obviously can be really beautiful. Jonathan Siegel has always done like a gorgeous job at that. The downside to it is it's about 50% as sustainable as wood framing. And so, you know, lime is not a renewable. It's recyclable, but it's not renewable. So I think one of the first decisions that I made was that it was all stick framing, and that we weren't going to do a podium deck. We eliminated the podium deck, and in exchange for that, we have 3 standalone structures with seismic joints in between them, because they're not tied together on a second floor, which would be traditionally tied together by a podium deck for the diaphragm. And so the wood versus the concrete was like a big decision I made early on. I think cost-wise, there's probably not a big cost difference between the two, to be honest. Maintenance wood's probably going to be a little bit more, but I think, you know, it's that balance you're trying to find. Like, I think we have to make decisions for the environment and for, you know, for the next 100 years. And I think like everybody's saying that we have to go back that way. Even we have to minimize concrete, even though I think it has longevity purposes, and there's like plenty of arguments for it. I think ultimately everything I'd studied and researched was saying like we have to be more on the lumber side, the stick frame side. So that was a big decision. The other one was just adding solar to the entire roof. I wanted to make sure that was designed into the project from the beginning, because all these projects, there's so much stuff that you can put on the roof with like all the HVAC units and all the venting for the plumbing, and it can just get littered really fast with like mechanical and other uses. So that was part of the initial design, and it was part of the construction budget from the beginning. Like on the previous project, we designed it into the project for one of the roofs, but it wasn't integrated into the construction budget because we just didn't, like, the funds weren't there. But this one, it was like from the beginning, it's got to be in the pro forma, it's got to be part of that, and it's not going to get taken out. And so that powers, it's pretty cool. I have this app now, and it tells me, I'll show it to you because it's,
yeah.
I look at it every couple of days now because it's just kind of cool how they quantify things. But it gives you the power creation.
Oh, rad.
Day to day, and then at the bottom, it's it tells you how many trees you planted and
what
emissions you've reduced.
We got 16 trees so far.
It's just cool. It's just like I think it's great to give people want to visually see what this is doing.
Yeah, they want to know what impact
I think
they're making.
It's odd. Like this app, Solar Edge, it just came with the solar system we put in, but I think, it's like I feel like people, in order for it to be tangible, people need to actually feel it. What is that doing for us, So that our system is all 3 roofs, and it's going to essentially power a quarter of the of the units, so it'll end up powering like 6 units. It's almost what everybody's doing now. You know, that's the requirement for new residential. It's still not a requirement for apartments. I'm hoping that shifts in the next couple of years, because I just think it's like, it's crazy that we have all this flat space all over the city being built and we're still not putting solar on it.
Yeah, that blows my mind. Like,
blows my mind. Yeah, it's like, this could take away how many emissions from cars, changing over to electric. You know, there's so many things. So yeah, that was like a big one. I think the biggest part of that is making sure it has to be in there from the beginning. Like, it has to be in the pro forma that the developers, you know, talking with this financial advisor about. It's all that stuff has to be in there, and it can't be like the fat that gets cut out at the end of the project, you know. And I think that's super important. And these, like, a couple different elements, they have to just always be in there. They can't be cut out. And so the other big one that I personally feel like is really important for San Diego is pervious pavers versus concrete. And so that's the entire project's pervious, aside from some SDG&E easement that we have that had to be grouted. And that's going to, the math I've done is, like, in a 2-inch rain event, we'll soak up about 80% of the water on site. And then the rest kind of flows down into this other kind of wash-in basin. So more or less, I don't think we actually divert any water to runoff into our oceans. And, you know, the other option that all these projects have these days is the bioretention basins. But the biggest downside to those is that what happens is you filter all that water through these pools on site, and then they just flow out to the streets. So they just get polluted on the streets, and then it just goes out to our ocean. So I don't really think there's any value to it after doing it on 2 projects. I just think it's a huge disconnect. And I think, you know, it should be like, if you can't, you know, some sites are almost entirely building, so pervious doesn't necessarily work on a lot of sites. So I think there should be another option where maybe there's a fee that you pay to do pervious somewhere else as like an alternative. But for us in San Diego, and I think pretty much anywhere that's coastal, I feel like it's a massive red alarm that we should all be experiencing right now, because, you know, I don't think a lot of people understand that 75% of our oxygen comes from our aquatic ecosystem. And, you know, we're killing all of our aquatic ecosystem with all of our water runoff. So I think it's super important, like, that these types of strategies are getting put in place on anything new getting built, because if we don't do it, we're not going to have it. You know, we're not going to be able to enjoy La Jolla Cove and all those things. They're going to go away. You know, it's just a matter of time, you know. And I know the city's doing stuff, but I think we need to be doing a lot more, you know. So
yeah,
those are kind of like the main things. There's a lot of other little things we did. We did our demolition. We did deconstruction versus demolition. So we had a team come out. They hand pulled all the existing buildings apart, and we were able to recycle a lot of the lumber on old homes. Is like just worth money now. You know.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah, they love it.
Like, old growth Doug fir is now this, like, you know, it's like mahogany.
Yeah.
You know, it's like tight grain wood. So a lot of these older spots, like, you know, the existing buildings, 2 of them were built in the 70s, and they were kind of like, they're not really well built.
And what were they?
What's that?
What were they? Were they houses, or?
There was a duplex that was just kind of funky, and then there was a little studio. So those were like the two structures built in like the late 70s, and then there was an old home that was kind of run down. It ended up having, like, they do an analysis on your project initially, and because you get this great tax rebate from it, and that's like this huge selling point to it is your tax rebate could be enough to, it's always going to be enough to offset the additional cost of deconstruction. But what it'll most oftentimes do is it'll actually make it cheaper than doing demolition.
Wow.
Like, you know, initially that it was quoted that we were going to get like a $60,000 tax rebate from it, and it ended up going down to like $25,000 because a lot of the lumber ended up being termites, which is still recyclable, but it's not reusable so much. People aren't going to resell it. So that was kind of, I think that's a huge one. You know, that's another one that I feel like should just be the standard It should just be deconstruction, especially now because materials cost so much money that a lot of that stuff can just get reused in some way or another if someone just takes the time to pull it all apart. And there's companies that do that. And cost wise, it was within $5,000 of demolition. Instead of $50,000 for demolition, it was $55,000 for deconstruction, and we got a $25,000 tax rebate, and we were able to donate a bunch of appliances and cabinets to Habitat for Humanity within that process. So it's like a win for so many people, so many reasons, and it should just be the standard. But I just don't think it's communicated enough out abroad, and so I think everything comes down to timing for a lot of people, and timing is like demolition is so quick. And
Right.
Edco recycles things, but technically a lot of that stuff's still going to the landfill, So, it's another one where I just hope that just becomes the gold standard of San Diego, and we all transition towards it just because I think it's financially better. I just don't think enough people know about it yet, that it is financially a better option. You just have to give yourself, instead of demolition taking 2-3 days, deconstruction is going to take 2 weeks. So just start your project 2 weeks early and then you're good,
Yeah, I think a lot of that is that people don't understand or don't know that that's available. And then the other thing that I've noticed with, builders and developers and all these construction is sometimes it's hard for them to do stuff that they haven't done before. So they, they get into their routines. They know how to do it. It's like, I've been doing this for 50 years and, they just like have their thing. And it's like, okay. So I think getting like your team in place and, I've got a couple of GCs that are like all about like experimenting, trying something new, how can we do it in a better way? And those are like the key people to really connect with. And it's huge. And then, when you work with somebody that's so rigid, it's just like, it's so defeating. It's just.
Yeah. And the industry is super rigid. And I think that's the challenge. I think that's what everybody that's trying to kind of slowly transition into all these new environmental models that, there's so much pushback. I would say like 90% of the industry is stuck in doing things the same way that we were doing them, 70 years ago. And it doesn't make sense anymore. But luckily, what's happening is it's like LED lights and solar. It's all these things where it's becoming so, it's like the supplies there, the money's there for it, the costs are coming down for everything. So it's transitioning to it anyways. So I think a lot of these things are just going to happen. I mean, it's good to see that the city's requiring, 3 stories and under on new houses to have solar. I think all that stuff's happening. It's just that, we just, everybody's just got to keep doing it, doing it more. And it just becomes the standard for everywhere you go, which is great.
Yeah. It's just so inspiring to see all the things that you guys are doing and just being like, there's people that care and they understand. And, it just like opens up this expansion of being able to look at things differently and having faith, that the world can shift and change and we can actually do something. And that you guys are following your values and you're living your talk, you're doing the things. And it's just like, it's amazing. I'm just in awe of both of you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I think we do this thing for our community.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a beautiful job, just bringing people together and changing conceptual ideas of how people can live in this world. So
being mindful in this space, I think is huge. Getting that starting out wherever your new space is, like starting out on the right foot. I think that's huge. Such an important piece of being comfortable and moving forward and not having like the stress and all those other things that come with it. We just had a friend over last weekend that just bought a house, and so they were telling us all their DIY woes, which is always great.
I think I've been there.
You keep going.
Yeah.
You have fun. You just make this like an entire stage for chaos to record and have fun. And then one day, 6 months from now, you'll look back and you'll be like, we came far.
Yeah, it's a big journey.
It is. It all journey. Every time. Every one of these projects is a big journey,
Yeah. I think, especially in the last few years with the climate of our world, it became overwhelming to think of how we could create change, it seemed like it was unattainable. And I think for the two of us, it just became very clear that it had to be about our community. And if it's within the block that we live on or the neighborhood that we've decided to really kind of sink into, what could we do just on a smaller scale on daily living? And once we started practicing that more often, and that was the transition of going so big to small again and getting back to the city, everything kind of just, without us intentionally doing it, just kind of came together on its own. So it's interesting to just be in the space that we are right now on the back end of so much chaos while still being in so much chaos.
Yeah.
It feels like we've settled into a nice spot of knowing that we do have some kind of power, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. It's really like, it's just all those little things, you know? It's like if everybody just does all those little things, I feel like there's huge change. I mean, you know, honestly, everybody's so bummed on the gas right now, but there's a huge blessing in that whole situation. I mean, COVID was the first one where all of a sudden,
Right.
everybody's working from home. It shut down so much commuting, so much emissions, just huge reduction. And now with gas prices, there's a huge wave of people that were not going to buy electric for probably 10 to 15 years, who knows how long, and now they're out shopping electric, which I think is ultimately, it's amazing. It's what our environment needs. It sucks that it's making life more unaffordable, you know, and hopefully the other things will kind of offset that, because it is kind of insane how expensive things are right now. But I think ultimately we all need to pay a little bit more, you know, in order for us, you know, 2 to 3 generations to still be here, you know. And I think it's I think Mother Earth is forcing it.
Oh my God. Yeah, she is like, all right, I'm cutting.
Yeah, shut it down. Like, you guys aren't going to do it fast enough. So like, here's COVID, shutting it down. And now it's like, what, you know, the insane crisis in Ukraine and Russia, like that is, I feel like ultimately it is just further pushing us away from gas, and
Or pushing us into our true values.
yeah,
Too.
yep, totally.
You know, we don't have little ones, but we do have a lot of nieces and nephews. And if they're the only ones that see maybe a little bit of change that we're trying to do, that would be worth it all, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Trying to
they're,
do something different.
yeah, and they're, you know, they're seeing everything, and they're like, my boys, you know, the oldest, he's always like before bed, sometimes it's like he's worrying about, you know, the sea level rising and like freaking out about it. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is real stuff for these kids, and that they're learning, and they're like, basically like, you guys fucked up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, what do I
Right.
say? What do I do? Like, how do I, like, you know, comfort him and help him? And, but yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
It
Well,
is.
great job on having such an older kid.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, they're both super, super sweet. And going back to mindfulness, are you guys doing anything right now in the world of ritual, or how do you guys get grounded? How do you stay centered? How do you get into that world, that mindset?
We both have different practices.
Oh, I want to hear.
I think for years I tried to pull him into what I was doing, and then he tried to pull me into what he was doing. And I'm very I'm less intense when it comes to my ritual of maybe being mindful. But I'd say definitely I've always been into yoga, being a dancer, having a background in dance. I think always being very aware of my body. But given these couple of years of being grounded at home and not having these extracurricular activities that I could pay to get into, it really became a practice of what I was doing for myself here and what I had in the safety of my own home. So I would say being mindful in small little practices for me, 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time, if that's putting on a recording or just sitting quietly with holding my dog. And then writing is a big one for me. It has to transition out of my body. So I'll try and write some pages. You have a completely different practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of like a ritual person.
Okay.
I have, routines that I just live by. And so over the last, I would say like probably 5 or 6 years, I've been slowly like fine tuning my morning and evening routine, and I've tried a lot of different meditation practices. And then I was really into Wim Hof for a little while. And then I found a group out of Encinitas called our Breath Collective. And that's my go-to routine now. I really love, there's a couple, they have, I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No.
There's probably a total of like maybe 15 to 20 different leaders. And every morning at 6 o'clock, they lead like a 15-minute breath exercise. And I love it. And it's super cool because there's so much different variety that you can start to feel which ones are what your body really needs, which I really dig. Like, you choose all these different types of meditation and you start to understand which ones are really going to make your mind kind of like either, whatever your mind needs to do to like either start or end the day. If it's like take away all the stress or take away all the chaos and like just, get into that moment of just, paying attention to that one thing. And for me, breath was definitely, it's more of like it gives you it's like the added physical element that really allows me to just like stop everything from outside, stop my thoughts from everything that I have to do, and just like focus on this one thing and just get into like a really calm state. And I really love their practice is great because there's a couple people through their practice that really make my body feel good. And so I just kind of, that's my daily. And I usually do 15 minutes in the morning and then 15 minutes in the evening before I go to sleep. And then I do some other like stretches and stuff. But yeah, I love that. That's like my go-to. I can't not do it. If I miss a couple days, my whole body, I just feel it,
Wow.
like I gotta get back on it,
And that's a virtual thing. You don't do that in person or
virtual. They do in-person exercises, workshops, and like weekends and stuff like that, but I haven't done any of those. I just do they do live, and then after live it's just pre-recorded, so you can go back. The cool thing now is you can go back through. So I have like, there was one that the main guy Reese, there was one that he did on Christmas Eve, and I felt so good after that one, so I replay that one probably at least twice a week. That's like one of my go-to exercises. Is just like that one specifically, everything, the flow from start to finish, like my mind and my body just felt so much better afterwards. And it's cool to find those things because it really is. I think everybody's body's so different, and it's really, I think it takes a while of trying different practices to really find out what like your mind and your body really needs, And I liked yoga a lot, but I feel like I needed something more than just yoga. I definitely needed something there's like a mental part component that I was missing, So it's cool to find those things. I think they're super powerful, and I think everybody should be doing them, to be honest. I think it's something I wish I was taught when I was like 4 years old. And, I think my stress levels would probably have been a lot more manageable over the years because of it, So it's,
oh my God. And what's it called again?
That's called Our Breath Collective.
Okay. You'll have to send me the link for that too.
No,
I'm going to put that in there.
I'll forward
the
to
show
you.
notes. Okay. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And is it a membership or is it?
Yeah, it's a membership, but they also, their page has a ton of free breathes on there. Just, they'll do like full weeks of free breathes. So you could live off of their free breathes, but I think it's, once you do that for a while, it's cool to get the variety of their daily, because then you can really find the ones that you're like, that's one of the ones that was magic for me, so I'm gonna keep that one. And it's cool to have that.
And surfing.
Yeah, surfing is my other.
Like when you ask what is your ritual, Curtis is nothing but routine.
Ritual?
Yeah,
surfing.
Yeah.
So Curtis, what's your sign? I'm curious.
Taurus.
So your birthday's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. They're going on vacation for my birthday. I was born on Mother's Day.
You were, oh my God, what a gift. I'm sure your mom is just like loving up on that.
She's that mom. Yeah. I was definitely her gift.
Oh yeah.
She loves me.
Highly supportive.
Yeah.
That's so rad. All right. So what's brewing? What's coming up for you after this big trip? What are you guys working on? What do you have? I see that you have a painting back there. I know you've kind of taken on some painting skills, and what else you got going?
My focus for a while is just going to be more on more on creative projects, less on like the doing and producing, and more just on just creative stuff. I want to get back to just creative stuff for a little while and kind of figure out where I want to go next. But definitely taking a long pause from development, and just design stuff. We're gonna rebuild our house at some point into three homes, like a Airbnb and a 2-bedroom, and then our home. So that'll be a project that we probably do in the next, like, I don't know, 2 to 5 years kind of thing. But I kind of want to totally regroup on my passions and my design love, and take like a slow like design process into that whole thing. I already have a bunch of designs I've done for it, but now I kind of want to back out and just kind of feel it out for a while and see what makes the most sense. So that'll be like my main design project for a while, I guess.
I feel like he's saying what he's gonna do, and then like the time off. I feel like we were still going pretty hard with the lines of work that we had.
Yeah.
At the time that everybody else slowed down, I feel like we still had so many projects going on that we're kind of wrapping up a big portion of them, and it's time to let go and travel and reset. And I think we'd probably have a better answer in a couple months of what's next. I really hope that we don't have a what's next for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be the on-site handyman at Cayuca.
I like it.
So I'm really looking forward to that, to be honest. Like, just take care of what everybody needs, and just maintenance, and just kind of caring for it like it's my home, and just, there's some really cool people that have moved in over there. A friend of a friend is moving in, and we already have a couple of new friends that live there. So it's kind of, it's definitely that spot. And that was a part of the magic of that project, was like, I wanted it to be close to where we live so I could bike there. And so now we're transitioning into this point where I can bike. I was biking there at the beginning of the project, and then it got too busy and I had to like do a lot of like trips to the store and that kind of thing. So now I'm back to, got a little tool shed over there, and I got my bike upstairs. So it's just kind of biking back over there and fixing things up when I need to. And that's kind of, I'm super excited to just do that. That's happening.
So rad. I love that you've created a beautiful community over there. And do you still have some spaces that are available for rent?
I don't think so.
Wow.
Yeah, we're all rented up. We just have a couple leases that aren't signed yet, but we should be. So yeah, that's the crazy thing about the market right now. Just, it's insane. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people moving into San Diego from other places, kind of like what's happening in Montana and all these, like a lot of the people from big cities. We have someone from New York, someone from New Jersey, someone from Oakland, and then San Jose and San Francisco. So we have 5. So 25, I think 25% of our building is people moving from somewhere else. And I think there's a huge part of what's happening in the rental market right now, which is just people from other places that I think are slightly more expensive than San Diego are moving here because they work from home.
Right.
And it's definitely causing a flood to the rental market, because we didn't advertise originally. We just had our posters up. So we were getting a level of traffic. We were trying to finish the project, and Pat and I were also doing the property management. So we kind of wanted to just take it in slowly. And then just 2 weeks ago, we decided to kind of, let's market it and finish it. And we did that. And we had a huge flood of people. People are like sending us personal statements, and we had a ton of people at the open house, and that was it. Sold out. It's crazy. It's just a crazy time right now. It's this big transition in the city happening, and pretty wild.
So crazy. And what does Cayuca mean? What's the meaning of the word?
So when I was doing the historical review on the project, you have to go to the San Diego Historical Society, and you look on the old Sanborn maps. So when I was doing that, I noticed that Robinson Avenue in like the 20s used to be called Cayuca.
Oh,
I was like, that's pretty cool. That's like the main drag of Hillcrest. It's
Yeah.
one of the main thoroughfares. So I kind of like that name. So we just put a C instead of a G, just to give it a little bit more, I don't know.
more peppy.
Yeah, it's
A little Curtis flair.
feels a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, put a little
kind of reminds me of the Yugo car that was like a failure in the market. So I was like, I didn't want to have that connotation. So yeah, Cayuca is a flavor of the original Robinson Avenue street name.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love the icon. It's just happy, and it just reminds me of like times of past.
That's a shout out to our friend Lauren Alec.
Yeah, our
She's
friend
the
Lauren.
talent.
She actually, so she used to work for this really cool graphic design shop in Orange County. And that's how we originally started working with her. But now she works for Mindspace. She's like a lead designer for Mindspace.
Hey, no wonder.
Yeah, so she has the same feels.
I love it.
It's cool. It's cool to have her, because that's definitely like a part of us, is like that whole, just that train of thought, I feel like. And she has the same. She's a surfer too, and
Surfer as well.
So it's cool. She did a good job. We're happy.
Yeah, she did. And then I think she also made you guys like some keychain design, and
Yeah. We stuck her logo on those keychains, and
Everybody moving in.
Yeah,
little green keychain.
everybody moving in.
We'll get you one.
Yeah.
yes, I'm obsessed with it. I need to make some keychains. Those are beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Like everything you guys are doing is just so intentional, and I think that's the big thing, is like being really intentional, connecting to our values, connecting to our cores, and then living that life and showing up in that way, and showing up in that way for the future generations. You've got your nieces and nephews that are looking up to you. I've got my boys. Like,
Yeah.
it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, we're definitely that generation that I feel like, I think our parents' generation was like the beginning of recycling. There's recycling bins. That was that transition, So I feel like it's been this slow transition, but I feel like now it's exponential, and I feel like we need exponential efforts, from our generation, and obviously the one after us is going to be the one that's really going to like turn it up a lot and make these huge shifts. But yeah, no, I think every little bit, everything we're doing, it'll be interesting when I know the compost thing's supposed to be coming in 2 years, and I'll be interested to see how that shifts.
Yeah, we've been doing that in Encinitas, so everyone can drop all their compost into the green bin. So we've been like, before that, it was like this big thing where I don't want, there's worms and there's like, it smells and this whole thing. And now they've just made it so easy where we just dump it in, and it's like, we don't have to worry about it.
So is your green bin the same size as your trash bin?
Yeah.
Got it. So it's just one extra bin, and then all your food goes in there.
Yeah, it's the same green bin that you would throw like all of your clippings from the yard or the mowers and the gardeners and everything, just dropping in all the green and all the food.
How much extra, like say if your trash bag was filling up every like 3 or 2 days or something like that, how much difference do you think it is for your family when you're diverting all that?
It's hard to, I'd probably say like 20%.
20%.
Because we've got like a bowl that we fill up and we toss out like throughout the day, and it adds up pretty fast, and it's heavy and dense, and our trash, it's like I feel like, and then of course, with recycling, so it's like there's hardly ever any like trash. I feel like we need a bigger recycling bin is what we need. It's like we don't have enough space to like put all the recycling in.
Right. What's your compost setup look like in your house then?
Oh, it's just like we just have this metal bowl that sits on our kitchen counter right by the sink. So whenever we do the dishes, or when the boys, clean up their plates, we scrape it all into the bowl and
perfect.
Put the dishes in the dishwasher. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It just becomes part of the routine.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I think City Senior sounds like we're still 2 years out before that. Isn't it 2025 or 2024?
Oh, I don't know.
I think they're still trying to find I think that there was something that went through. They were still trying to finalize the funding for all that, because it's another whole truck and transfer, and everything has to be has to
To
happen.
put in place.
And they might charge for it, or I don't know. I heard some talk about it, but I don't know what's like the final.
But and then I know people do have like the countertop compost things, and then they also have the bins. And I mean, I'm just seeing that in my clients' homes that they're all doing it already. So
That's great. That's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, we need to do that. We haven't started that because we don't free.
Well, we tried.
Yeah.
We tried to do composting ourselves here on the property, and but as I said, the wildlife has.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to figure out a better system.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you talk about the wildlife. We have this cat door for our cats to go in and out. We've had skunks come in. We've had raccoons come in.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Same.
Yeah.
But I love them all, and like the possums, and I'm like, Tyson, stop feeding them, or like, don't like encourage that. Like, they come in and eat the cat food. So
Right. Yeah. It's like, it's cool, but also
don't do that.
and whatnot that come with that as well. That kind of medium in nature.
Yeah.
It is their home.
I know, we've moved into their territory.
Yeah,
Really.
exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on here. I'm just like over the moon. I can't wait to share all of this with everybody and all of the links that you're going to supply me with too. Because it's
Thanks
just
for
neat to
having
see
us.
people doing cool things and giving the inspiration to others that they can do it, even if it's just little teeny tiny little things.
Yeah,
Huge.
totally.
Aw. Well, thank you for making time for us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's good talking to you. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and Kenseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.